Do 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 do. Hello, chat room. Don't think anybody's there, but I will just in case. All right. D&D all. Umbria. Yeah, session logs. Let's do D&D session log. Now, D&D all. 5e homebrew. Walker of Water Deep session logs. Right now, you go over here. And then you go down here. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do do do. Okay. Hello, hello, chat room. Looks like we have a viewer. To-do. Just a few minutes while we wait for the top of the hour. Okay. Bum ba bum 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 bum. You know, I should probably have thought about this and should probably have put Roll20 up in the background with some music going while we're waiting for the start of the show when I stream it early to make sure that OBS is going to work properly. But okay. Oh, and I lost the viewer because nothing was going on. Phooey. Sorry. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Yes. Well, it's my bad. That is my bad for not thinking about that, but it's too late to Set that up now. I will have to think about that for next week, though. Ooh, 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 ooh. 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 Hey, swing. World Series time. NFL time. College football time. NBA time. English Premier League time. All of that stuff is going. Okay, we've got less than a minute before the top of the hour. Getting ready. Getting ready. He looks at the ball. He lines up the putt. He takes a practice swing. And now he's going to step back and he's going to look at the ball again. Holds up his putter. What's the angle of the green, Jim? All right, all right. Okay. At any moment, we will have. All righty. Looks like it's top of the hour. Well, hello, 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 chat room. Currently, I think the chat room is empty. But hello to anyone who may be coming by and watching this stream during the week. My name is DM Gallibond, and this is Tales from the Table for Tuesday, the 29th of October, 2019. The image you see on your screen is an image I am using for my Saturday campaign called The History of D&D. Um, that uh, that campaign streams live on this very Twitch channel at noon every Saturday. And I am going to post a link to the image, which is found, again, as I said, on Pixabay, so that you can go and tell the creator of the image that you liked it. All right. History of D&D is a first edition D&D game. Well, when I say first edition, I mean original edition D&D game. We go all the way back to the rules as they were envisioned and codified by Dave Arneson and Gary Gygax and set down. This is the version of D&D that had only 3 alignments and only 7 races, and races and classes, at least in terms of the demi-humans, were all combined in the same. There was one kind of elf, one kind of dwarf, one kind of halfling, and no other playable non-human races. All right. This week we had, unfortunately, a little bit of a light turnout. We had a brand new player who rolled up a character last week and then somehow got his days mixed up and failed to show up on Saturday for the game. So he is planning to show up again next Saturday. We hope he does. One of our other players had a family emergency and was unable to attend. So, the players who did show up were Roy playing Devlin Talon and Elsie playing Siren Silwinis. All right. That duo started with a discussion. Well, me recap from the last time. They had found their way to the old moat house along with their guides, um, Elmo and Zert from the village of Dedale, and they had decided to set up an ambush for the patrol that had headed out that morning. So the PCs began with a discussion of how best to carry out that ambush. Eventually, Zert and Elmo, the two guides, the two melee characters, moved towards some scrub on the other side of the path where they expected the patrol to come back. And as they did, four enormous frogs emerged from a nearby pool and attacked. This gave us our first combat of this game, which means it was the first time we had had a chance to play with the combat rules from original D&D. Now, original D&D, you roll a d20 for your attacks, and you do get some bonuses based on the kind of weapon and your ability scores. But the armor class situation in this edition is backwards because the lower the armor class, the better. And thanks to Roll20 having a first edition spell sheet or character sheet, I'm sorry, built in, you can roll your attack rolls on that character sheet. And instead of telling you the number you rolled, it'll actually tell you the armor class that you hit. So as long as you hit the enemy's armor class or lower, then you successfully will hit with your attack. So this battle went on. The four characters, two PCs and two NPCs, battled against the four giant frogs, and the party was able to slay all of them. And almost immediately after the last of the frogs fell, there was the sound of booted feet running through the woods towards the moat house. And they looked up and they saw four bandits break out of the woods at a run. The bandits were brandishing weapons and demanded to know who the party were and what they wanted. Devlin, who's kind of quickly becoming the face character, he tried some fast talking, but the bandits were not convinced and they took up a fighting stance. Uh, that lasted until Zert managed to separate one bandit's head from his shoulders. And this brings up another mechanic that is different from original D&D than later editions, and that is the mechanic of morale. Almost every creature type, especially the more intelligent ones, get a morale score that is somewhere between 2 and 12. Um, and the DM rolls a 2d6. And if the score is the enemy's morale or lower, they will continue whatever it is they're doing. If it's the enemy's morale or higher, then their tactics will change. So these bandits have a morale of 8, and I believe I rolled a 9. I also gave them a penalty because they had just watched one of their friends get his head chopped off, and the rest of them immediately they started to surrender. They didn't want to get killed um, by the party. So the party was able to win the battle without further bloodshed. So they started to question the bandits. Devlin knocked two of them out with his blackjack, and they tied the third one up, made him take off his armor, took his weapons away, and they started asking him how many people were left in the moat house. That bandit indicated that a lot of their number had gone to the road to try to lay an ambush for the caravan that was supposed to leave to Dale. Um, and the party knows that that caravan isn't coming because the village elders succeeded in holding the caravan master from traveling on the road that day. um, while they checked out this moat house where they had indications that the bandits were hiding. So they eventually decided that what they would do is they would have Devlin, again, the face character, put on one of the other cloaks and escort the bandit they captured inside. His name was Balder. And Balder was to take him in and try to lure the bandit captain out for a for questioning. So um, this captain's name was Sadon. So they went in, they had a conversation with Sadon. Um, this time, Devlin's fast talking seemed to work on Sadon, and he decided that he would, in fact, come out and talk to this band of ruffians as Devlin was indicating they were, who wanted to join up with Sadon and his men and fall under the banner of Bargle, who is once again the uh, long lost resident of Dedale, who was a magic user that had turned to the dark arts after some unfortunate events happened to his family. And he apparently is the one that's rallying not only all these bandits, but several different tribes of monstrous humanoids in the area that all seem to be fighting under his banner. And increasingly, he's becoming a threat to the village. So Sadon came out along with two bodyguards. They started talking until they recognized Zert, who they know to be someone that's from Dedale, who's been kind of scouting out their location, but they'd never been able to catch him. So once again, weapons came out. There was a fight, and this time it was Elmo who came in with a battle axe and relieved Balder of his head because he was trying to sneak up behind Devlin. And while Devlin was using a crossbow to fight against uh, the other bandits. So the session ended there with their surrender. The um, party did gain quite a bit of experience. Uh, they gained 237 experience each, which accounts for the frogs, and I gave them credit for defeating all of the bandits, even though they didn't destroy all of the bandits. Each of the bandits was worth 75, the bandit leader was worth 100, and the giant frogs were each worth 100. And that grand total was 950. Because the NPCs were doing a significant amount of the fighting, they took an equal share of the XP from the PCs, and that's why each of the two PCs only got 237 experience points. Um, I still need to go and calculate all the treasure that they found because I've been kind of busy this week and I haven't had a chance to do that. So I'm hoping that tonight I will have a chance to calculate all that treasure out and get the session notes back to the players so they can be ready for next week. And that was pretty much what happened in the history of D&D. So this game, again, like I said, it uses the original edition rules. It's turning out to be quite a bit of fun. We've got two very solid, very good role players. Um, our third, well, I should say we have three very good role players. Julian, Roy, and LC are all really good at what they do. I think John, our fourth player, is going to be another good addition. There is room for more people. This game is open for recruiting on Roll20 under the history of D&D. So please, if you feel like jumping in the Wayback Machine and playing the old rules of D&D, and if you are free on Saturdays at noon, that is noon USA time. Right now it's Eastern Daylight Time, but within a couple of weeks it's going to be changing to Eastern Standard Time, um, because of yay daylight savings time changes. Anyway, the that game, like I said, happens every week Saturday at noon on this very Twitch channel. Now I'm going to shift gears and talk about my Sunday game. And once again, this image here is from Pixabay. This is an image called Astral Traveler. And um, the link is there. You can go on there, look at the artist's website, and you can tell him what how much you enjoy his art if you wish. This game streams every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So once again, like I said, that's 2:30 Eastern, East Coast USA, and you will find it again on this very Twitch channel. Now, the game that we had on Sunday um, began with the conclusion of the cliffhanger from last week. If you'll recall from last week, they were trying to do a skills challenge to get away from some Ravnikins who had teleported into Waterdeep and were trying to take the party by force back to Ravnica under the pretense that they could train them for a very important mission that they claim uh, will threaten every civilization across the multiverse if the party does not do something to stop it. So they failed that skills challenge and they had to fight a battle against some Ravnican goons. And when they joined that battle, the battle started going pretty well in the favor of the party. Uh, the um, the half drow fighter and the monk and the barbarian all got in some great hits um, on the enemies. But then a gigantic shield guardian showed up, and they were all kind of concerned about that. Meanwhile, back in the courtroom, there was a magical battle going on between the spellcasters from Ravnica and the spellcasters from the Black Tower. And while the Ravnicans were having some success in putting or in casting Hold Person on um, the Waterdeep casters. The Waterdeep casters were having some success in casting Banishment on the Ravnican casters. So they were able to banish the Ravnicans back to their home plane. Um, and it was very clear that while the two sides were fighting to win, they were also being careful to use non lethal means in doing so because that that became important as the battle in the courtroom wound down, and eventually there was just one soldier from Ravnica left, and he surrendered and allowed himself to be captured and interrogated by the leaders of Waterdeep there. And he told them a little bit more about their uh, culture and their society. He was there under a spell that would keep him on this plane for an hour, and then at the end, he would be summoned back to Ravnica along with all of his equipment. So he promised to take messages back to the leaders of the Boros Legion um, and to the leaders of the Azoria Senate. They were His message was going to be that the Waterdeep leadership was open to diplomatic contact and possibly receiving a diplomatic envoy to discuss more of the perceived threat that the Ravnicans thought was being posed by this kidnapped victim that was taken from Waterdeep. And they kind of left that at that. So they started to make their way back to Lady Silverhand's estate. And during that trip, during that walk back, Xandri asked Barnabas Blastwind um, who this person that he had mentioned in his message last week was. Um, he had mentioned something about a Barak Klanghammer, who was a friend of the leadership of Waterdeep and was living at the Growlhund Villa, which had recently been confiscated from the Growlhund family after it was discovered that they were secretly worshippers of Asmodeus and were involved in a cult of the Lord of Tyranny. So that did not go over very well. Um, so Barak Klanghammer is supposed to be a dwarf that is there at Growlhund Villa. And Lady Silverhand thinks that it might be a good idea for the party to be out of her estate if they are going to receive diplomatic envoy from Ravnica. Since the Ravnicans are very interested in the party, um, she did not want them around in case they decided to send people that would try to take them by force again. Um, the leadership all implied that Barack Klanghammer has a few tricks up his sleeve. And the party did accept the notion of relocating to Growlhund Villa and living with Barack Klanghammer there. They found him to be a jolly and quite old dwarf who has a great sense of humor and is full of all kinds of stories. Um, when he found out a little bit about the party, he heard the boast from Galabar, the half orc, that Galabar had impressed the priests of Moradin by being able to hold some dwarvish ale. And so uh, Barak Klanghammer, um, cajoled Thardrum into having a drinking contest with Galabar and himself, where they would drink from a 40-gallon barrel of Mystic Storm Brewer Porter. And that is a vintage from 1372, making it over 100 years old. It's a porter that has notes of coffee, toffee, and other delicious ingredients. And Barack won the drinking competition after both the half orc and the dwarf succumbed on their third mug. Um, and um, he had a very hearty laugh at the expense of both of his guests, but it was all in good fun. And Thardrum the dwarf just um, he he played that off very well. Um, he said that as he tasted it, there were tears of joy in his eyes because he had heard about um, this particular porter for most of his life, and he'd always wanted to try some, and now that he tasted it, it was even better than he had imagined it would be. Um, and for his participation, Barack Klanghammer promised to send his family a travel size keg of the Mystic Storm Brewer Porter. Travel size meaning 10 gallons worth of the drink. So the following day, after that drinking contest, Barack and the party went to the Temple of Gond, where the Gondites are examining and trying to reverse engineer the Githyanki astral vessel that the Waterdeep commandos managed to commandeer. The guide on this visit was a gnome named Beeslix, who is part of the team working on said reverse engineering. And he's very keen, Beeslix is, on unlocking the secrets of the magic that powers the forward and aft repeating ballistae on the vessel's deck. Um, when Beeslix realized that one of the party members was the Warforged Adamant that some of their brethren had recently tended at the Silverhand Estate, he um, he was overjoyed, and they nearly turned themselves inside out when Adamant said that he wanted to consult them about some possible upgrades to his integrated shield on one arm and sword on the other arm, based on what he saw from that shield guardian a few days earlier. So he started talking to the gnomes and very quickly realized that they had visions of turning his arms into um, basically Swiss Army knives, not only having a shield and a sword, but having all kinds of other, um, vital and useful tools, at least in the eyes of gnomish engineers, which really Adamant the Warforged thought was quite a lot of waste, and he had no desire for that. But he wanted to humor the gnomes, so he promised he would help them with some other projects in the future. At any rate, they were extremely excited and very happy to talk to him. Then Galabar went to the Temple of Moradin to talk to them about the trophy that he had commissioned for the grand tournament. This grand tournament is a fundraiser. He being the current champion of the gladiatorial arena, and Xandri being the past champion of the arena. Um, they were. It started off with them going to fight an exhibition match for charity, but when Volothamp Gedarm found out about it, he has now turned it into this grand tournament. Um, First of all, Galabar found out that nearly 100 people have entered this tournament, 24 from the Temple of Morden alone, another 24 from the Temple of Tyr, and nearly 40 from the Docks Ward. And the reason that people from the Docks Ward have entered is because some of the sponsors have insisted that in addition to raising funds to rebuild the city, they should also put together a cash purse for the victor of the tournament. And so a lot of the poor people from the docks who are a lot of tavern brawlers anyway, they decide, well, I'm going to enter that tournament. I want to see if I can win me some money. And so we'll see how well they fare. But that tournament is very likely going to start, if not be completely played out in the next session of our game. Um, but this trophy that the Temple of Moradin is working on is really kind of a thing of beauty. It's a 5-level trophy, each level being kind of like the tiers in a wedding cake. And each of those levels is held up by 4 columns. But the columns are actually carved representations of the races that live up and down the Sword Coast. So the first or lowest level is held up by the tall races, such as the Furbolgs and the Goliaths. And then next above them are the medium races, such as the humans and the half orcs. Above them are the shorter races, such as the dwarves and the Aarakocra. And on the very top tier is held up by the tiny races like the gnomes and the halflings. And then on the very top, so far, all it has on it is a mound of broken weapons. Um, and these weapons are all around a little central space. And the priest that was showing him their design of the trophy said that once they know who the champion is, they will put that champion's likeness on the top of the trophy, and then that will become like an annual. If this becomes an annual tournament, they will then hand out that trophy every year to the winner. And so, of course, they all predict that it will be a dwarf who stands um, atop the trophy there. Zandri, the half drow, and Galabar, the half orc, um, both probably would like to have a thing or two to say about that, and they will get their chance because they intend to fight in the tournament along with everybody else who's entered. Then, as the session closed, uh, we had some discussion between Zandri and Oyahusa the monk about coming up with some hand signals or other coded signs that the team could use when they need to employ stealth or when they're trying to be very, very sneaky. Um, we ran out of time and ran and got to the end of the session at that point. So we decided those two players actually decided they were going to discuss during the week in the Discord server, uh, some ideas about that, and then we would begin the session next week with them sort of finalizing those plans, and then we would move on into the actual tournament. So for the DM this week, the DM has to come up um, with basically the structure of how this tournament is going to be played out. And Volo is thinking about having it be a multi day event where not only will there be combats between individuals in the arena and between teams in the arena, but there will also be entertainment, so storytellers and singers and all this other kind of stuff. And uh, they will have they will have all that to look forward to. And of course, in the background, there's still research and work going on in Blackstaff Tower and in the Order of Magus and Protectors, where they are looking into the. It snowballed. Um, where they are looking into the reports of the Githyanki. Some over there in the far continent of what the heck was it? OC? Is that what it's called? Um, so OSSE, OSSE. So they're looking into the reports of the Githyanki activity that might be over on Asi. They're also looking into the reports coming out of Port Nyanzaru that um, that the Gith have been um, spotted down in Chult, in the jungles somewhere doing something. So there's likely going to be some travel in the not too distant future for the PCs, and we will have to see where the leaders of Waterdeep recommend that they go, and out of the possibilities that they have, where the party would really like to go. Because once again, with this game, you know, I, as a DM, you have to have some limitations on what the party can do. Um, but I don't like to put them in a straitjacket and set them on a railroad track and tell them, hey, this is the direction you're going. I like to give them a little bit of latitude, because I always think when they make a left turn and I'm expecting them to go right, it makes for a more interesting game, because then it opens up possibilities I hadn't even thought of. And that's where the collaborative storytelling really makes things a lot of fun. So, um, all right. I see we have Gonti. Hello, hello. Oh, thank you, thank you. That's the truth, and we appreciate it. Well, it's always good for a DM to have involved players, and I can really say, from the standpoint of the Walker of Waterdeep, all the players get very involved. There are some sessions where one player or the other will just sort of take a back seat and let other people, you know, take the bit and run with it. And then there are times when those players will sit back and somebody else will run off and kind of drive the action of the show. But it's I really don't have to. Um, I really don't have to try all that hard to get them engaged in the story. Um, there's certain times where we have a little bit of exposition about things that are going on, but then usually they will either pick up on something there, or they will pick up on something I said 15 sessions ago and feverishly have to go back through my notes and try to look for, and they will want to run off and do something with that, and that's fine too. It's always good when you have a game, and I'm hoping that for our Saturday game we can build up a group of players like that as well. Once again, the Walker of Waterdeep game is the Sunday game, 5th edition D&D. It live streams on this very Twitch channel Sundays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And let me see. Well, Gonti, do you have any questions about your game, or any questions about the other game for that matter? And I don't see any forthcoming. Oh, you mentioned directions the NPCs might be. Oh, any hints on those? Well, I think you've already heard. You've already heard a couple of the possible places that they can go. You've heard that there are reports of the Githyanki and Chult, and then there are reports that have come in to Blackstaff Tower from mages off of Karatur on the east, and then they found that piece of fruit that they had determined is native to the continent of Aussie, which is out east across the sea from Karatur. So those are the leads that people know about. Um, when you get reports from some of the NPCs during the session next week, you'll see if they've come up with any other ideas, or whether they're narrowing in on any particular places, either within Aussie or the area of Chult beyond Port Nyanzaru. I think what I am going to try to do to make sure that um, everybody has a chance to be involved, I think I'm going to um, let the trying to design a way for the tournament to be played out by dice rolls among the players, sort of the same way we do skills challenges. That is when it's not one of the PCs actually involved in the tournament, but when we're talking about other groups of NPCs that are fighting against each other, then maybe between some of those fights, we might hear something from some of the NPCs researching what's going on with the Githyanki and where they think those might be, and possibly hearing from Lady Silverhand and some of her contingent of people if they've heard anything from our friends the Ravnikins, because of course that's yet another possibility, depending on depending on what the party finds out and depending on what the players want to do. So I think right now there's probably about three potential directions that the plot could go in the immediate future, and I want to try to avoid putting out too many more threads than that, because then I'll have to uh, start trying to get really creative with PTO from work to have enough time to write out all those possibilities. I think I've got just about as much as I can deal with right now without taking on any more permutations of the game. But I know that the players are going to do something unexpected, and so I have to try to figure out some sort of contingency for that as well. LOL, yes. Speaking of friends, any out of character hints on what Xanathar is up to? Ooh, well, you guys certainly created. Uh, of course, now poor Chris has just gone and forced himself to create yet another backup character because he keeps abandoning characters that he starts and playing new ones. But the rest of you have backup characters that have some sort of tie-in with the Xanathar. And so it might be that if there is a long voyage from Waterdeep to somewhere else that the main party has to take, it might be that while the main heroes are on that long voyage, we might go back and we might look in on the alternate party and see maybe what is going on from their point of view, since they um, are closer, shall we say, to the Xanathar and have more of a vested interest in knowing what the Xanathar is doing and making sure that they see that that gets done. So um, that might be something entertaining that we could do. Um, Oh, well, yes. Might be too late for that for her. At least if she stays in Waterdeep, she might have to get out of the city if she wants to get away from him. Sort of like Oyahusa's poor friend uh, that was part of the Black Network. Um, Nadia's packing a bundle already. Okay, she's on the uh, next boat out of Waterdeep Harbor. All right. Well, Uh, I don't know. I'll probably do some sort of how the other half lives if there's a big long voyage. Whether we look in on those characters or whether we go and we do something completely different. Um, if the party really decides they want to take more time investigating leads on Toril, then we may have an as the other half lives that involves um, people that are um, part of the Ravnican guilds, maybe people that are finding out something about this hunt that is happening in the distant backwater plain where this city called Waterdeep is, and that may be spinning up to try to somehow get involved in that themselves. So, might be a way of peeking in on what's happening in another part of the multiverse while the main heroes are traveling, um, just to give the players a little information that their characters don't know about yet. So, but you do bring up a good point with your earlier question that the Xanathar is a force to be reckoned with. And so there might be, even if we don't take our focus off of the main characters, there might be some hints as to what the Xanathar is up to that may crop up in the next session or two. Um, there. Anything else? Any hints about when, if plane walking will happen? Well, there there was an opportunity for that to begin a couple of sessions ago. The player or the PCs decided that they did not want to do that on somebody else's terms, which I certainly understand. The PCs wanting to have a little more control of that, and they may have more of an opportunity depending on how these diplomatic talks go between the Boros Legion and the Azorius Senate and the leaders of Waterdeep. So it might be that the players get more complete information and they might find themselves recipients of an actual invitation instead of a okay, we're here, you're coming with us, which is sort of what happened to them before. Um, yeah, Oyo and Galabar do seem willing enough. The uh, There may be certain incentives for all of the characters. I know some of them have much stronger ties um, here to Toril. I mean, Thardrum, of course, he's got his wife waiting for him, and Xandri has somebody special. Um, Adamant, we're not really sure where Adamant stands on the whole thing. Um, and we don't know whether he's particularly fond of the idea of going elsewhere or whether he would rather um, stay in Waterdeep. He's been kind of neutral on all that. Yep. Metal Man does what Metal Man does. All right. Well, all right. You're welcome. You're quite welcome. And once again, it looks like we're kind of going to wrap up here now. My name is DM Gallibond. This has been Tales from the Table for Tuesday, October 29th. We are here every Tuesday. Um, at 8 p.m. on this very Twitch channel. Now, I will announce that I guess it's actually starting next week. Starting next week, there will be a new weekly One Mic show that will happen on Mondays, Monday at 8 p.m. And this will be called Monster Monday. And Monster Monday will be a show where we look at a particular monster out of D&D. Right now, I think I'm going to focus on 5th edition D&D, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the monster, what makes that monster special, um, the ways a DM might use that monster in encounters, the types of environments that monster might be found in. I also am going to take a look at how that monster has changed from the various editions of D&D, because there is a wonderful website I have found where you can look at monsters and they will kind of compare the different stats of the monsters over time, and you can see how they have either in some cases gotten more powerful as the editions have gone on, or um, how they have gotten less powerful, or how some of them are drastically different today than they used to be. And so, oh, can we make requests? I love the monsters. Well, yes, we can. People can make requests, and I will tell you that if you make a request, and if you really, really, really um, know a lot about that monster, you might even be invited to be on the stream and talk about your favorite monster. In addition to what what I have found. Now, this I'm doing my very best to avoid um, going and listening to a lot of the um, stuff they do on Dragon Talk, because I know there's a segment that they do on that show, which is produced by Wizards of the Coast themselves, and they will sometimes talk about the lore and the history of a monster. Um, I like using these other fan sites, and I like thinking about more from a DM's point of view, what makes that monster fun or special, how it can be used in a fight, um, to give the PC something a little bit surprising, and even some ways that I have reskinned certain monsters over time to try to give people ideas of how you can take the stat block of a monster in the monster manual and tweak it a little bit and have it be something that is fairly easy to run from a DM standpoint, but is something completely unexpected and new and different for the players, which novelty is always kind of fun, because if all you ever throw at them is variations on skeletons, it's kind of it's kind of boring, you know. You beat up one bag of bones, you've beaten up a lot of bag of bones, and if that's all that keeps coming, you kind of get sick of that diet. But you can mix up a lot of different kinds of creatures. I don't even like to stick with all undead or all aberrations or all this or all that. I like to have all kinds of different creatures that um, the PCs can fight, so that they never quite know what's going to come around the next corner. So, all right, Gonti, I'm glad that you're excited about that. Hopefully, other people will be excited about that too. Um, I do not yet have, well, actually, I do, but I'm not ready to announce what the first monster we're going to look at is. I will probably be putting that out, teasing that a little bit during the week on Twitter. So, everyone have a great week. Hopefully, we'll see some of you who stopped by and watched the stream during the week. Hopefully, we will see you live either in future weeks or for the games that I run Saturday at noon with the History of D&D, the first edition game, Sunday at 2:30, the Walker of Waterdeep, the 5th edition game, and then starting next week with the 2 weekly shows. All right, take care, everyone. Have a wonderful week and good night.